Well, we are live. A good evening to all on this Monday, the 27th of January. I'm here with my little glass of port wine. It's Joe Chaffee, and that's Joe Rayo.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Joe Chiappi. Happy birthday to you.
We are friends of the friendless. Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. We are friends of the friendless. Carry near, carry far. Thank you very much. Appreciate it very
I
much.
always know it's your birthday coming up because your birthday comes 2 days after Craig Allen's birthday.
Yes, and he's far older than me.
But we're not going to say how old you are we?
I'm 61.
Oh, see? So you're not a
I
teen.
I don't really. That doesn't make any difference to me. I'm 61. You know, I'll be 61 tomorrow. Hopefully, that's the most important thing is that I live to see another day.
Correct.
Yes,
Because you never know.
yes. I've already changed over rain, and as I've said, when we get to this point in our lives, we go to at this point we go to drizzle and fog.
Yes, yes. As long
So
mentally you're not foggy.
no, I have my moments though. It goes in and out. I'm finding I'm finding grasping words sometimes is a little bit more difficult. Oddly enough, spelling. There are times when I know how to spell a word and I write it and it's wrong. And I know that I've spelt it correctly before, but I can't seem to get it quite right. So every once in a while, the spelling cells up here don't work very well. So, uh, by the way, just kind of bring your chins below the camera there. There you go. So maybe just get yourself a little. That's it. Much better.
There we go.
All right. So, Joe, going through this week, the whole week looks very quiet and dry, and I don't think you'll get you would argue with that.
No, of course not.
Um, I've kind of made the argument since late last week, and I'm going to still stick to it that as far as Saturday is concerned, I think there were really important reasons and very valid reasons why we're seeing models kind of go back and forth and sort of go all over the place. And I think we may still see that go on for another 2 or even 3 days. We may have to wait till
Absolutely.
Thursday before we really have this thing figured out with what's happening along the East Coast.
I agree with you 1,000%. In fact, about an hour ago, I did two updates, one on my YouTube channel and one on my Facebook page. And in both cases, I said, and people are already counting this out now. They're saying, well, it looks like it's going out to sea now, right, Joe? Or it looks like no big storm. And as I said, we're still about 5 days away. And, 2 days ago, one of the models, a European, was calling for a big winter storm, and we're still far enough away so that we're going to see more waffling, if you will. So I wouldn't take this off the table just yet. And I'm absolutely in agreement with you. Maybe within 72 hours, things will start really coming to clarity in terms of what we're going to see over Super Bowl weekend. But right now, I wouldn't completely rule out that we're out of the woods.
No,
Uh,
and you know what? I think there are very valid reasons why you can't really take it off the table. When I created some graphics today, I sent you them ahead of time so you could take a look at them. When you have one stream of air that you're watching, it's one thing. But not only do we have basically two streams here, it's kind of a split flow, but you've got just chaos in terms of all the different short waves that are running around. And what you're seeing, what you're seeing with these with how the models are handling it, this oddly enough, the one model that has been really resoundingly consistent for the last 3 days has been the Icon model. It continues to just kind of ride a storm up the East Coast, and it hasn't really waffled, a few miles here, a few miles there, but it's maintained the same theme on virtually every single run for the last 3 days. So I find that interesting that model has been sort of, it's kind of stuck to this one mode. But we'll get to it in a second. Let me just say really fast to Johnny Quest and to Scott Briller, thank you very much for hitting super chat on my birthday. I really appreciate it. So that's a few cigars for me, and thank you. And Bill Ubers hit it earlier, and thank you, Bill, for hitting super chat. He's chief cook and bottle washer today, so he didn't know whether he was going to be on the live stream. So let me bring up some of these some of the graphics that I did, and for my Patreon members, um, I wrote a post up today that kind of explains it all. So you've probably already read it, but it gives you at least a little bit of a heads up as to what my mindset is here with regards to this. So I'm going to let me set this up. What was
Okay,
that?
I've seen the three graphics that you sent me. So which one are you going to start with first?
Well, let's start with the Canadian satellite picture. We'll start with that
Okay.
one.
Okay.
As soon as I can bring it up myself here. Okay, don't save. All right, so hang on one second. So, and you'll see it on the, when we when I show it to you on the models. Sometimes I'm having to draw the stuff in, so it it you might not actually catch it. At least this way, I have actually pulled up the satellite pictures here, which if I can just bring my graphics up, we can get this going. So just give me one second. There it is, finally. Okay, so what I did was I pulled up the satellite picture. This is what's on the GOES satellite view. It's called the sandwich view, and it basically marries the visible satellite picture with the with two levels of the infrared. And when you see four short waves, which is I've showed up four short waves. The fourth short wave on the upper left is actually off. Most of it is off the frame, out south of the Aleutians. But here are your four short waves, and the thing is, you're asking the model to resolve not only shortwave number 4, which is going to be part of this equation, but there is another shortwave that you can't see here that's coming short of the Pacific Northwest, and I'll show that to you on the other shot. That's also in this equation. So you're asking the models to kind of time out these four systems 4 and 5 days out in advance. So it's no wonder that it's having timing issues. It's having strength issues because we still haven't even gotten rid of the system that's here in the Northeast, and that's on the lower right side of this photo, this picture. That's still here in the Northeast, so that's got to get out of the way first, and then we're going to see how these all interact with each other. And I'm going to go over to the Pacific shot, Joe, which is the other satellite shot that I have, and this is where what we're looking at in terms of what's happening in the Pacific and how it eventually is going to move its way on over into the east. Your weekend system is actually crashing ashore now into the Pacific Northwest and is going to be dropping southeastward. But there's that kicker system that you see there that I have labeled kicker system. So that's that fourth shortwave that was on the Canadian shot that's going to shoot up over the top. That's the system that's going to be in the northern part of the jet that's going to eventually get together with the one that's dropping into the Pacific now. It's really horribly complex, and it's no wonder that we're seeing intense storms on the East Coast on one run. The next run, it's way out to sea, suppressed, not suppressed. Sometimes it was taking lows up to Pittsburgh. So it's all going to come down to timing and strength and position. And as you and I just discussed, we ain't knowing this until probably Thursday at the earliest.
Correct. And I wouldn't stick my head out much beyond saying that, yeah, there's a chance for some unsettled weather. I would say right now that if we did get it, it would probably be more toward the middle and latter part of the weekend, which would include perhaps part of Super Bowl Sunday. And of the two weekend days right now, the better of the two, if you wanted to do something out of doors or go somewhere, probably would be Saturday.
All right. So as far as weather is concerned tonight, there isn't a whole lot going on.
No,
Hang on one second. I'm bringing back the
I'm sure
the maps.
with your 61 years on this blue and green and brown orb, you probably would remember. Have there been ever any major, let's say, nor'easters or snowstorms that coincided with your birthday? Or
You know what, Joe? Uh, for many years there was nothing, and then they all made up for it in the 2000s. I can't pinpoint the year. There was one. I want to say maybe it was 2009, maybe perhaps one of those years, or maybe it was even earlier in the 2000s. I remember just waking up to 10 inches of snow on the ground and temperatures in the low teens on my birthday. There have been a few, but they've all happened pretty much in the last 15 or 20 years where they've come around my birthday or on my birthday. So yeah, but for a long, long time, certainly through the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I can remember. I can remember times when it was in the 50s on my birthday. So
yeah,
yeah, it was nice to see a snowstorm, a double-digit snowstorm on one of my birthdays. I think there was another one that was like an 18. I seem to think it was an 18 incher on my birthday or 15 out here anyway. But I don't remember the year. I got to go back and look at the stats. Meanwhile, by the way, I've just got the U.S. Watches and warnings map up, and there's very little going on. We actually have winter weather advisories in the western parts of North Carolina up in the west in the mountains, and a few counties in eastern Tennessee. Also, I'm sorry, winter weather advisories. Yeah, and winter weather advisories, and a handful of counties in southwest Kansas that have winter storm warnings up. And looks like we have a few of the usual winter weather advisories in the Cascades for 36 to 48 inches, which only constitutes advisory criteria up there.
yeah.
You gotta love it. But again, I got the satellite loop up of the Canadian shot here just to show you those short waves in motion that are up along the Canadian border and in the Northeast. So you can just see how utterly chaotic everything is with all this energy running around. And here's your Pacific energy that's rolling right along and coming into the Northwest. And as far as the radar is concerned tonight, you got a little patch of showers in the eastern half of North Carolina, a little bit of snow up in down East Maine. You have some precip in eastern Colorado, which is probably snow, maybe some rain showers further south into New Mexico, and a big, big mess of rain coming in to the Pacific Northwest. So that pretty much kind of wraps up the current weather. Now, what are you thinking? So you and I haven't spoken since yesterday, and so what are your initial impressions on the weekend system? I have the upper air up starting at 54 hours, just so you know.
I saw that, especially the European took what apparently is the system that a lot of people were pinning their hopes on, a coastal storm that passes off to our south and east Saturday night, and then I guess you could say we've got an upper trough or an upper system coming through. This again is on the European during Sunday, and that may possibly bring a few scattered showers of wet snow or maybe even just plain rain because the temperatures on Sunday are anticipated, at least that's what it looks like right now, is anticipated to make it maybe as high as the upper 30s and low 40s, at least in the Hudson Valley. So, unless there's some kind of a connection between the northern and southern stream system that maybe would amplify that coastal system Saturday night into Sunday, unless that happens, and again, we can't take that off the table because the icon, for example, as you mentioned, is going full bore with a significant system. But again, it's something that we really won't know with any surety or certainty until probably later on in the week. So again, for those people who earlier on my Facebook and my YouTube page are saying, "Well, it's all over, another bust or whatever." In fact, didn't you post earlier today, Joe, about cranky weather guy saying that he hates to break the news to everybody, but it really doesn't look like much of anything this weekend? Or
Oh, I didn't. That wasn't me. I didn't post anything about cranky weather guy. Not today, anyway.
who's the other? Who's anybody else that you
I,
that you?
I, I mean, I saw a couple of posts from him since yesterday. I doubt that he said that because he he kind of made a point to say that he's actually on one of his graphics that I saw has precip up into the north, up in the northeast for out of this, and it kind of laid out sort of a general idea of what he expects, but. He makes the same argument. There's too many shortwaves running around, and you probably, models are going to do what models are going to do in the next couple of days, and you're just going to have to wait for them to settle out. But he's I didn't see anything that he said that
Thought I
took it
saw
off the table.
I thought I saw something. I'll have to I'll look back. And if he didn't say it, I apologize if he's watching right now. I didn't mean to provide any incorrect or false statements. I don't get in trouble.
No,
I, I
he is cranky. He's the cranky weather guy. He's very good. He writes excellent analysis of what's going on. And I don't get a chance to read them very often. I certainly try. I don't read them before I'm doing my stuff. I do sometimes read them a little bit afterward. He really goes in depth. He gives you a good meteorology lesson on how things work. So those of you watching, if you ever, he's on Twitter and Storm. I think it's Storm Hamster. His blog is stormhamster.com. I think it is. But take a look at it and read some of his long range posts because you get a good understanding of just how complex the atmosphere is. And speaking of which, I just sort of pointed out, on the GFS, on the new GFS, going into Friday afternoon, the system that's shaping up for Saturday is comprised really, you've got three working pieces here with the shortwave in the western lakes down to about Kansas. Then the bottom of that trough runs from Oklahoma down into Mexico. And then you have another third shortwave that's approaching Lake Winnipeg in the northern part of the flow. So this is really about how all these three shortwaves time out, and every run is taking you on a bit of a different adventure because on some runs one shortwave is stronger, on the other run maybe the other shortwave is stronger, or one is faster and one is slower, and again it's going to come down to timing issues and strength issues that we're not going to get a hold of. And if you look here, Joe, on 60 Sunday, I mean, the GFS does have a little bit of a cutoff low over New Jersey with the trough right on the coast. The only thing I would just say is, as far as for snow lovers is concerned, and I think you'll agree with me on this, um, that you have marginal cold air at best. So you really need to get a solid a strengthening feature in the upper atmosphere to create some kind of dynamic cooling to create accumulating snow. Otherwise, I think you're going to have a real problem with this as far as trying to generate snow amounts.
Joe, I just noticed on the chat board, Tim Veltman made a super chat, and this is, I guess, for every year that you've been on this earth, a
Oh,
$61.
good God. Oh, thank you so much. I guess you should be lucky that I'm not 100. Bye. Thank you very much, and also Javon Perry. Thank you so much. You guys are being very generous on my birthday, and I know a number of you also um, have hit too. So I'm trying to find all the super chat hits, and I'm having a tough time, Joe. I don't know if you can see anybody else's there um, that hit the super chat board tonight, but if you do, can you thank them for me, please?
I'm having a little bit of a problem with my internet right now. I'm actually trying to reconnect on YouTube. And can you hear me?
I hear you, yeah,
Because
and
all of a sudden you froze.
yeah, no, I seem to something's happened here. Yeah, hold on one second. Well, there you are. Um, just a second. Yeah, but the chat kind of froze out here too. Although I think we're still broadcasting. But I'm
Okay.
I'm going to refresh my screen here, and
Oh, now everything is frozen.
let's see.
Everything is frozen. My cursor is frozen.
Your cursor's froze. I can hear you fine.
Okay.
We're on. Every week. Okay, I just refreshed on my side. Joseph Lopresti, thank you for hitting super chat tonight. Really appreciate it greatly. I'm trying to run back to see. I can't see who the rest. Those of you who hit super chat tonight, collective thank you because I can't see who did and who didn't. But it's very nice of you. You all are being very generous. That's a couple of boxes of cigars for me, and maybe a bottle or two of wine. So I'm a happy camper. Thank you. Um,
Oh, you're back. Oh, everything's moving now
yeah,
again.
everything's moving on my end. All right, so
Oh,
let's take everybody through the late afternoon GFS, shall we?
why don't we?
Did you see it yet?
Yeah. Again, now I'm just trying to move things around, Joe. You're
Okay,
you're you're talking, and I hear you, and as long as that works,
yeah, that's
you know,
fine.
it's all
Okay, so
good.
let's bring up the surface map of the GFS here. And clearly, there's really not much happening this week because of the fact that when you have a lot of short waves running around, usually they're all weak, and you don't have a really wrapped up system to deal with. So what we're seeing actually are a series of systems moving across the Gulf states, and one tonight that's bringing snows into parts of Oklahoma and Kansas, which is why you see the winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories for a very small area. That low and that shortwave that's with that is going to minor out as it moves across Florida Wednesday into Wednesday night. So that's done. And now we have the system for the weekend, and it starts to develop in the Gulf of Mexico, and you can see it here approaching the Florida Panhandle. Meanwhile, we have what's left of, let's call it a chilly high, because it's not really an Arctic high, it's barely a polar one, that tries to hang on and starts to move out. And now you've got your system developing as it moves up along the coast. And this run of the GFS is, I showed you the upper air, but if you wanted to see the reflection of these the northern and southern stream systems, you, this is where you're looking at the surface. So you've got some sort of a frontal or trough that's moving through the Great Lakes. That's your northern part of the jet. Your southern part of the jet is supporting the low, and this particular run of the GFS has come to the left. But look at the precip type, and you can see that you got snow, but you also have patches of rain in there, and that's telling you that the atmosphere is marginal. And unless you get really good dynamics, unless you get that omega, like as you described, Joe, that comes overhead, where the upper air feature, the upper trough are very intense or strengthening, that you wind up with some convectiveness going on in this. I don't know. I don't know how much snow you're going to be able to produce on the northwest side of this. There's just not a whole lot to work with, even though the low does come to about 30, 38 and about 70 or so. I want to say 39 and 70.
But don't forget that at one time, a lot of people were calling for. Are you still there?
I'm here. I'm
My
here.
my screen just went black.
Oh, it did. Well, let me see. Are you? I still see you, Joe.
Hmm.
I see you fine. Yep, you're still there. I see you fine. So go. You
Yeah,
can keep chatting. Go
but I have
ahead.
a but I have a black screen. I want to know what the heck's going on with my computer now all of a sudden. Um, yeah, if you remember, they were talking about some forecasters were saying that we might change the snow on the backside of this past Saturday's event, and that never
Oh,
happened.
yeah, yeah. Well, that wasn't ever gonna happen, right? Are you still with me?
Yeah, I'm still here,
Oh,
Joe.
so last week I was the one that was having all the problems, and now you're having them tonight, which I think is, you know,
Fascinating.
fascinating. Yes. Just running up and down uh, uh, the chat here. Um, Actually, James Budd makes a point. I didn't realize that some of the North Carolina mountains, that their peaks are actually high. Some of the peaks are higher than Mount Washington, which kind of, I guess, that's probably why the high elevations, they certainly probably help you with snowfall up at those levels. I've driven down 81, where the elevation is enough where they put those runaway truck lanes, which I always get a kick out of.
You know
Um,
what, Joe? I'll tell you what. You continue the show,
okay,
uh, and
you go fix your computer.
I'm just going to sign off for a moment, and I'll come back when I figure out what the hell's going on here.
Okay. All right. Very good. So tonight is Joe's night for technical difficulties. Meanwhile, let me just run through what's going on here with respect. This run of the GFS, again, timed out the upper air a bit differently than the prior run, and that's why you see the surface low where it is, which is a little bit further to the north and west, and precip along the coast. But when you look at what generates on the snowfall maps, it really doesn't show very much. So what we're going to have to see here, if we're talking about, if we're going to wind up having something major, this upper air has to change a little bit. Okay, you're going to need this to be pretty much phased together. Here's your southern system. Here's your northern system. Okay, you're going to want them phased like this together. With one big upper low that's diving southeastward. You got to get back to the look that the European run, for example, had back last Friday, which was which is it has gone away from. And in fact, when we look at the European model, which I'm going to get to in a moment here, but we'll take that and take a look at that. It also does things a little differently. One of the things that's changed on the models, by the way, is how the models are handling this southern stream system, which is right here. This is our southern system that's coming out to the east. It actually leaves a piece of it behind. Shortwave, shortwave, another shortwave. There's probably another little one in there. That's the chaos of the north. And this is where you start to go crazy if you're a forecaster, because you're really trying to desperately figure out, okay, well, what's real and what's not real. Some of these are going to move on by. Here's where the European tries to phase it with the north, but you see how the south, some of it gets left behind here, down into Mexico. So the bottom part of that trough actually gets sheared out, and then that's what your trough looks like. This sort of sideways bottom of a U, and it's not the best looking trough in the world, certainly from the standpoint of being impressed with it. What you want to go back to, if you're going to want to see something substantial in terms of snowfall, you really kind of have to go back to this look that the models had back last Friday. Here's what the European did last Friday. You see how it starts to phase it here, and then just sort of cuts it all off right along the in the Mid-Atlantic states, with the cutoff low in New Jersey and another one in West Virginia. It has to have a look something like this, because then you wind up with a system like looks this way on the surface with a wrapped up deep low. This is why the models were doing what they were doing last week with some of the more intense development that we were seeing on some of the models. And they've gone away from that because of the fact that, well, the models are started timing things differently. And now we're seeing maybe a trend back in the other direction, but it's hard to, look, whatever the models do, they're going to do. We just have to, we've figured out, when we looked at the satellite pictures earlier, we figured out, hey, these are our short waves. This is what we're watching, and now we're just going to let the weather tell us in the next couple of days. We're going to let the weather tell us where this is all going. And by the way, just looking at the long range here, still again with this problematic issue of the vortex tied up in the Arctic region. Now there's a little bit of blocking that develops. Let's not really call it blocking, but you have ridging that comes up from the Azores towards Greenland and Iceland around day 7 or 8. This is probably the reason why the NAO goes negative. And you do have a very deep but broad trough that sets up in the eastern part of the United States in that time frame on the GFS, which does lead to a colder look. And there are short waves that are going to be rotating around it. The upper air does look a bit more promising going into the second week of February. But guess what, folks? We're now talking the second week of February, and we've really pushed this calendar back. We are going to start running out of time, so opportunities are going to have to start presenting themselves in a big hurry, and the upper atmosphere is going to have to really cooperate for snow lovers to get some redemption. That could be Mr. Rayo now. Pronto? Hello?
Yellow? Yellow.
Pronto? Chi parla?
Are we still on the air or
We're
what's?
still on the air. I've been yapping away, but
Oh,
we pretty much covered everything here weather-wise, so I'm just going to bring you up full screen. Did you figure out your issue?
no. I just, I couldn't even get a cursor to, turn the machine off. I had to physically turn it off,
You
which
certainly
is not
can you could certainly understand my frustration now from last week, right? Because I not being able to set up the live stream was torture,
yes.
and it wound up being an issue with Optimum, or where they were for whatever reason the internet signal was slowing down, and it slowed down to a point where I couldn't connect, and uh, yeah, it drives you crazy. So you know what'll probably happen is, as mysteriously as it appeared, your problem appeared, it will disappear. Did you do a full reboot?
Yeah, I mean, I shut the whole thing down and I had to do it physically, and of course, naturally doing it the wrong way, just pushing the button, the on and off switch on the tower here.
Yeah, you really shouldn't do that.
When it came back up, it said, do you want to run Windows normally? And I said, yeah, why not? So,
Yeah,
uh,
you kind of should try not to do that.
but if there's no way that I can use the cursor, the screen was absolutely black, Joe. There was nothing.
Nothing.
So,
Ryan
and,
Ford. Ryan Ford, you and I are going to have a conversation, young man. Thank you. Okay? And let your dad know. Thank you. I should have well, I should say, it really is my birthday, but thanks, everybody. Thanks very much. It's, I'm very, I'm, I'm humbled. And Joe, that's a very tough word for me to say.
hey, look, I can remember when my grandfather was 61.
Well, you passed those,
Right.
you were kind of thinking, yeah, we
A
got you
year,
through the to the second plateau.
yeah, a year from this August, I'll be eligible for Medicare.
Oh God. Did you ever think?
No,
Did you ever think?
nope, never thought, Joe. Never gave it much of a thought.
You
But
know?
here we are.
Well, you're
Here we
out. Well, next year I can take Social Security early. You can already do that.
Yes, yes, I can. But my Social Security date is December of 2022. That's
Well,
my
that's for full retirement. That's your full retirement date. But if you wanted to take it early, you can take it now.
right.
You would get whatever the percentage is of the full amount.
Yes. But anyway, we're here. You're there.
Yes.
And I think everybody's on. I can see, yeah, now I can actually see people on the chat. I can move the chat around. Ryan Ford, what are you, nuts?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Well, thank you. That's all I can say is thank you. That's enough. Thank you.
All right.
We'll leave it there. God wanted you here today to see your birthday. You are blessed, and I certainly feel that way. Thank you, Quincy McCoy. Very kind of
John
you to say.
John Charles says Tex Antoine had plenty of red wine before his broadcast.
Well, this. I'm drinking a nice Merlot.
Hmm.
You know. Jason, thank you so much. He's got that and the emoji. You are amazing. Thank you
You are
so much.
amazing.
Um, so, uh, I guess you know what, Joe. Let's leave it at that tonight. We'll cut it a little short. I still have to have some dinner. I don't know if you did. You have dinner?
Yes.
Oh no, I made some rib steaks yesterday. They were one of the best steaks I've made in a long, long time. Perfectly cooked, perfectly seasoned. They were an inch and a quarter thick. Rib steaks on the bone. They were delicious, and I
We
blackened on both sides. I did them in a cast iron skillet. They were amazing.
I had ribs last night, actually, believe it or not.
You had ribs, very nice.
And we're gonna have my wife says we're gonna have Chinese food style ribs, I think tomorrow night. I think it's gonna have a special coating or something on them. So
Oh, okay, she's making them from scratch.
something like that, I guess. I don't
Okay,
know.
all right. Well, no. Listen, it's I have a listen. Your wife is a good cook and a great baker. and I have a tremendous amount of respect for people who bake
Yeah.
because no, that's an art. That baking is an cooking and baking are kind of two different things. Baking is really I give people a lot. I think people who bake, I give a ton of credit to, especially if they can, when they do original things and they take chances. Because baking's hard. Baking, you got to the would be eggs and milk and yeast and no yeast and the temperature and all the rest of it. Baking is an art form, and your wife is great at it.
Well, thank you. I'm sure she's watching right now
Oh, good,
upstairs.
good.
Mark G.
What's that?
Mark G. Happy birthday, Joe, and a big 75.
Oh, thank you, Mark. God, you guys are really all very generous.
You're going to clean up tonight, Joe.
I
You got a bunch of cigars and another bottle of
cigars
wine.
and another. Well, this glass is just about empty, so I think it's time for me to go have my hamburger and go refill it because it's cheeseburgers tonight with a little avocado. So,
Oh, lovely.
all right. So look, same bat time tomorrow.
We'll be here.
Great.
Hopefully I'll be here.
Okay. And folks, thank you very much again for all of you who hit super chat tonight on my birthday. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. And we'll see you tomorrow. If you want to read up more about the long range, just for Patreon members, you've got your post from earlier today. It's also on my website, meteorologistjoechaffee.com. There's a website version of that post, and you can take a look at it over there. It's a little shorter and a little different, but it's the same idea. What's that?
Joe,
What?
Peter Bicker, Joe Rayo. It was Angry Ben that posted this morning about the writing off of the weekend.
All right, yeah, and angry. Just Ben does do some does work for me. He does my nycweathernow.com website, and he and I we do wind up agreeing most of the time, but we don't always. But we never really talk to each other about what we're doing forecast wise. I let him; he's on his own. He does this thing. I do my thing. And sometimes it comes up. I have not thrown in the towel yet. He has thrown in the towel. So let's see what happens as we get closer. Joseph Gallo, thank you for the birthday hitting super chat for tonight. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you, and thanks again for everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Be sure you got the free weather apps, the meteorologist Joe Chaffee weather app, and Angry Ben's weather app, the Angry Weatherman. Mr. Rayo, we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll see what adventures the models take us on.
Have a good one.
Good night, everybody.